Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. It's today's Takes with Alex. I am your host, Alex. If you've been watching the show, you knew that. I'm wishing everyone a happy Thursday, although today we are commemorating the end of the beginning, or the beginning of the end. It's beginning of the end, because this is going to be the third and final time, God willing. That's what the promise has been. Um, That's what the deal has been. Deal, covenant, the agreement. There has been an offer, there has been acceptance, and there has been a lot of consideration. So, first things first, let's just dive in here. We all like to live with a sense of clarity, a sense of understanding, a sense of control in our lives. We can't control the uh, circumstances around us all the time necessarily. We can do our best to try to um, anticipate, but we cannot control, right? Because everyone is their own person, and rightfully so. Circumstances are sometimes work out better than we had expected, right? And so if we leave a little bit of space, kind of uh, relinquish a little bit of that control, we allow God to work miracles and have things work out better than um, they otherwise would have if we just executed our plan. Right, the pro forma comes up with a number or an estimate, but God sometimes has better and more fulfilling plans. That being said, no one likes to um, no one likes false flags. No one likes um, I guess being led on, whether it's relationships, whether it's in professional circumstances, whether it's anything. No one likes to be kind of like you know pulled along and manipulated, right? I mean, that's kind of um, people grow resentful about that because you um, allocate a lot of energy and attention, maybe even emotion, maybe hope towards something. And whether it is or whether it isn't, again, we cannot control circumstances, but we shouldn't do it because it frustrates. And so I guess my point with this is that in today's world, since we are moving forward, since this is going to be I hope, a lot of these things are, again, circumstances not in my control, but hopefully this is the last Tisha B'Av that we spend um, mourning the loss of the temple, and next year we are celebrating the building of the new. So that is my introductory monologue about um, you know especially considering someone's past. You know what I mean? Now I understand there's work, I understand there's assignments, I understand this is just what it is, and that's fine. Um, that's fine, but it's still not ideal. Okay, so the title of this video is From Ashes to Joy: The Tragedy of Tisha B'Av and the Promise of Celebration. Everyone's got their hats on. We're ready to go. There are days when the weight of history feels almost unbearable. Tisha B'Av is one of those days, a time set aside for mourning the greatest tragedies of the Jewish people, and by extension, the brokenness that runs through all human experience. I was talking to someone yesterday. Isn't it so interesting that God made the entire universe, and who knows what's out there? the technological sophistication, the mental acuity, whatever it is that's going on out there. Here, the human condition, human experience is fairly simple at this point, right? But the next stage of human, consciousness expansion requires that the base of Mikdash is built. It's a temple where by again we live in the world of asiya, the world of action, and so here it's like we, by having this temple where we go and we bring our sacrifices, our donations, whatever it is, in the name of the one God of all of existence, we are, as a species, as humanity, we are acknowledging that there's one God who has sovereignty over all of existence, right? And that's the stepping stone. Once we get there, then our consciousness can expand, right? The first commandment of the Ten Commandments is, "I am your God," right? If we can't, without that understanding, without that, just fundamental, like critical component of thinking, then everything else falls to the wayside. We must be saying something good. Anyway, so yet the same tradition that asks us to sit on the ground and remember destruction also holds a radical promise. This day of sorrow will one day become a day of pure joy and celebration. Today we explore the spiritual significance of Tisha B'Av, both its deep tragedy and the hope that it will soon be transformed. This teaching is universal for every person who has known loss and still carries the quiet hope that broken places can be healed. Rooted in the eternal Torah and illuminated by the compassionate insights of Hasidic masters, we will discover that even the darkest day contains the seed of future light. Tisha B'Av, the ninth day of the month of Av, which we're in now, is the most solemn fast in the Jewish calendar. On this day, we remember the destruction of both the first temple by the Babylonians and the second temple by the Romans. We also recall other national tragedies that fell on or near this date. It's a very auspicious date. The Book of Lamentations, traditionally read on this night, Eicha, gives voice to raw grief. A city that once stood in glory now sits in desolation. The Torah and the prophets do not soft pedal the pain of exile or the consequence of turning away from God's ways. Yet the same prophetic voice that records the tragedy also promises its transformation. The prophet Zechariah declares that the fast days of mourning will one day become joy and gladness and cheerful festivals. The day of deepest sorrow is destined to become a day of greatest celebration. This is not denial of the past. It is the Torah's insistence that history is moving toward redemption, a global redemption, right? Where we're aligned with the universe. And that God's ultimate plan includes the healing of even the most painful chapters. Hasidic masters approached Tisha B'Av with both tears and profound hope. The Baal Shem Tov taught that true mourning opens the heart. When we allow ourselves to feel the full weight of exile, national and personal, we create space for a deeper return to God. The concept of Yerida Litzarich Aliyah, a descent for the sake of a greater ascent, is central here. The destruction of the temples was a painful descent, yet it scattered holy sparks throughout the world. Through the faithful lives of generations, those sparks are being gathered. The intense focus of Tisha B'Av accelerates that gathering. In Hasidic thought, the eventual joy of this day is already latent within it. The vessel of the 9th of Av remains the same. One day the light that fills it will change from mourning to celebration. This is why the masters encouraged both sincere grief and unshakable trust. The same day that currently holds our sorrow will one day hold our greatest joy. The process of redemption is already underway, even in the darkest hours. Okay, spiritual. So the spiritual teaching of Tisha B'Av offers every human soul a powerful model for living with tragedy and hope. How do we overcome, right? The destruction of the temple, the exile of the Jews from Israel, for thousands of years, uh, living, and being vulnerable to to the whims, of other nations. Some have treated us great, some have treated us poorly. Um, so how do people, how do a people, right? Whether it's microcosm of the Jews going through this experience or the macrocosm of humanity as a whole, how do we look at all these tragedies that have happened that took us away from the familiarity of what we know and launched us into various seasons of the unknown. How do you maintain through that? Well, the first thing is to just off the top of my head is to life has to go on. It has to go on. That's like number one, right? The number one is there's God. Number two, life has to go on. All right. So there, this experience is for everyone. It's an interesting human experience that we go through. Um, and that's it. That's all it is. It honors the reality of loss. Healing begins when we stop running from pain and allow ourselves to feel it honestly. It awakens deep yearning. The emptiness left by destruction becomes a space for stronger longing for closeness, justice, and peace. And that's exactly what I was saying before. Um, okay, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it reveals the possibility of transformation. What is broken can be rebuilt. What is dark can become light. It builds resilience and faith. We learn to hold sorrow without letting it extinguish hope, and to hold hope without denying sorrow. It points toward ultimate redemption. The promise that this day will turn to celebration is a microcosm of the larger promise that the world itself will one day be filled with divine light and harmony. How can we embody this teaching in our own lives? Make space for honest mourning. Allow yourself to feel loss without rushing to explain or fix it. Turn pain into yearning. Let sorrow deepen your desire for goodness, connection, and healing. Act with hope. Even on heavy days, choose one small constructive action that moves toward light. It's not just about getting back to where we were, right? It's about getting there, but now having this experience and this understanding, moving past that, moving the needle even further. First time the needle was moved greatly, we had the first base finish. Okay, we got kicked out, we got destroyed. We came back with a stronger, resolve and rebuilt it. We wanted it. We saw the God's hand and the story of Esther, and we lost it again. The third time that the needles, with all this preparation, with all the amount of um, dedication that is around the world, that you know, and in Israel, and the various leaders and proponents of world peace. This time the needle's, the needle's gonna go, break the gauge there. You know what I mean? Because this has to be it. I think consciousness has expanded. Divine consciousness, awareness of God has expanded so much around the world that it's really going to be a unified undertaking. Okay, hold the long view. Remember that the story is not finished. What feels final today may yet be transformed. Live toward the promised joy. Through justice, kindness, and faithful living, help make the future celebration more real. The tragedy of Tisha B'Av and the hope that it will soon become a day of celebration teach us one of life's deepest truths. Mourning and hope can and must live side by side. The same day that holds the memory of destruction also holds the promise of ultimate joy. This week, whether you are fasting or simply reflecting, hold both the sorrow and the hope. Hold them both, the sorrow and the hope. Let the pain refine your heart, and let the promise of transformation strengthen your resolve to live toward the light. If this message touched something deep within you, share in the comments. How do you hold both mourning and hope in your own life? Like if these words brought comfort and inspiration to your soul. Subscribe for more explorations of Torah and Hasidic wisdom made alive for our time, and turn on notifications. May the day of mourning soon be transformed into a day of pure joy. May every broken place in our lives and in the world be healed. Until next time, mourn with honesty, hope with strength, and walk toward the light that is already on its way. Guys, be healthy, be happy, be blessed. Wishing you a good Thursday, and I'll see you again for the next one tomorrow. Thanks so much for your support. Have a great day.